when Frank Stippel was part of that lineup. He's going to be dancing between two cars, it looks like, by the entry list. But now the cars all being given the order to be two abreast. It's a rolling start, and as they head out of Tiergarten and over that little lip, which brings them back onto the start-finish straight of the Grand Prix circuit, the lead car dives to the right. They're all being shown the red lights on the gantry at this point, but they all turn green now, and hard onto the throttle will go Max Verstappen, who pulls out from alongside or from behind the Aston Martin and draws level. He's going to try and outbrake the pole-sitting car. There's a crash further back, though, and that is the Cup car that has piled into the rear of... Did it hit the Aston Martin? Possibly, or no, the Aston's continued. The 917 car, though, sideways. That could have been a far, far worse incident. The silver Porsche ends up partly in the gravel, but Max Verstappen, thankfully already in the lead, didn't know a great deal about the carnage behind, and he will lead for the first time out of the Mercedes arena.
Well, Max has been going, I've got the move done, I'm just, oh, hold on, something behind going slightly sideways. Yeah, about 45 degrees sideways. And the Porsche Cup class car, the Speedworks car, I don't think it hit the Aston Martin.
Does for the first time. And I know there was a lot of carnage at the head of the order. That could have been a far bigger crash than it turned out to be. As Verstappen will rush across the line at the end of something like a 8 and a bit minute lap to confirm that lap is led then by the Emil Frey Red Bull backed Ferrari 296, and the battle is very much on for second and third between the two front engine GT cars.
Well, look, 2 seconds covered the top three, but Stippler is the one making progress. The white and blue striped Mustang heading off after Max Verstappen, and at certain points, again, these cars all deliver their performance differently. I must say, normally you expect the Ford to have loads of grunt, but coming onto the start finish straight, the Aston Martin seems to be hauling him in down the start from straight, but then breaking deeper into the first corner. Well, that's what Stippler can do. He's raced here. He can race here almost with his eyes closed. He's been doing it for so long, but he's keeping Max Verstappen honest. Now, let's see what they can do, because, of course, they're about to lead the Grand Prix circuit, and suddenly the nature of this venue changes completely. They've got a few more corners to go. They've got to go down into the dip, up through the chicane, but then they go into the Nordschleife. And for Max Verstappen, it's a busman's holiday, but a really enjoyable one for him. And pressing clear, but that was a really impressive opening lap of the race, I must say. Made the start, but where it's really going to feel different is when Max gets up to doing some lapping.
Yeah, so Heinemann, I thought so, was well out of control. There was then a collision to the back of the Christian Krogner's Aston Martin, which was trying to do its own move, but that was just a total lose. You plug into the side of the car and the fuel pumps in. But to ensure that each fuel rig is pumping at the same consistency, they are a little bit, for want of a better phrase, trigger happy, I suppose, because one might pump slightly quicker than the other, and therefore to equalise that method, you're restricted to the amount of time that you have to be in the pit lane. Therefore, if you've been out for a shorter period of time, it's a shorter stop because there's less fuel to go into the car. And
now, here's the question. What is the tactic for Emil Frey Racing with Max Verstappen? Did he start with the anticipation of doing one lap fewer because he may be lighter, or maybe just driving his socks off? Because on the last lap alone, he gained 6 seconds over Frank Stippler. The gap's out to 16.5 seconds. The Emil Frey Racing Ferrari lapped in 7 minutes 51, so now merely very close to 15 seconds faster than the pole position time. Again, just slightly ignore the pole position time, because that's not what they're just going for grid position, but also, more importantly, getting accustomed to the car. Max is clearly enjoying himself. These are really, really fast laps. But it could be that he's stretching his advantage over Frank Stippler, who's such a circuit expert in his Haupt Racing Team Mustang, because he's got 1 lap less fuel in the car. And just to reiterate, 25 kilometres around this circuit, you think of the average flow rate of fuel being sucked up by his Ferrari motor, and that will be a lot lighter load at the start of the race. However, he is Max Verstappen. It could just be Max doing Max things and, just absolutely relishing the opportunity. Actually, for now, he appears to have a little bit of a clear track ahead of him, but 7 minutes 51.5 seconds is the fastest lap of the race so far. That's his, but still some distance to go to complete lap 6, but he's certainly putting in a masterful performance at the front end of the race, all on his own now. Lights flashing, that means a slower car is just up ahead.
There is a generally considered theory that going long throughout the race is the best possible option. Yes, you take a bit of pain at the start of the race, but if you can pit as close to the checkered flag as possible towards the end, that's where you get the time back. And to my mind, I mean, when you're doing a fuel mileage race, why would you shorten that first stop? You're just going to compromise things moving forward.
You do, but if it's on a day when you know a massive rain cloud is approaching, then you go, well, we may have to come in and change tyres anyway. And again, the pain of when you've just passed the pits because it's possibly dry at the pit.
240i's going hammer and tongs. Max Verstappen not that far away from ticking off another lap. He's at Kleiner Carousel.
He is, and he's about to come across the first of the tail enders, so this will be the point where he'll show his craft. Of course, he's in a much faster car, a top-class car, but immediately goes around the outside of BMW, finds a Porsche Cayman in his way, however, picks it off, and then that's the point in which he pulls onto the long straight. It's called the Dottinger Höhe. You're running alongside a public road. All you can see up ahead is the tower of the village. That's Nürburgring village on your right-hand side. There's a gentle rise in the straight. A kink is coming up. He's got nobody now to get a tow from. Well, he's leading the race. He's very unlikely to, but importantly, he's broken the toe to the chasing Ford and Aston Martin that are still very close together. But right now, he's got a clear line of sight up the rise. Kink coming right now. He's got the end of the lap, and right in front of him is a Renault Clio trying to keep out of the way. Does so. He dives up the inside of that to the right. Wait for it, wait for it. Oh, tail of his Ferrari coming out a bit. Turns left onto the start-finish straight, and this lead would have gone out. Fastest time in qualifying. We know people don't go too seriously there. 8 minutes and 6 seconds, and the second flying lap of the race, or first real flying lap, because it was 8 minutes and 10 from, that looks even quicker, still 8 minutes and 2 seconds from Max Verstappen, so his lead has been stretched. He gained about a second on that lap, but it's a second across 25 kilometres, so it's really, you know, it's the equivalent of 0.2 of a second if you're running on a traditional Grand Prix circuit.
Does this, and he ran a little bit wide there coming through the second bit of the Mercedes arena. I think that was all in hand though, as Chris Lulham will be waiting in the wings here. The nerves will be jangling, thinking he's potentially going to be taking this car over in the race lead, which is high pressure considering Chris did relatively little running this morning. That is, of course, if they choose to do a driver change in this first stop.
Well, I was going to say in the entire race, maybe Max is having such a good time and he's going to go, hey, I'll call it a gym session. I can do all 4 hours around this circuit. But, you know, Max knows full well, much as he's enjoying it, that more will be got out of the car if the drivers are relatively fresh, and he knows that Chris Lulham, just 2 years ago, Chris was dipping his toe back in the pond to come racing often. Very limited single-seater, but superstar in sim racing, and he's taken this year his first full season back on the circuits in the GT World Challenge, and now the Nordschleife.
Yeah. I've noticed that the timing is creaking here and there, which rather suggests quite a lot of you are logged onto it now to find out how young Mr. Verstappen is doing.
I'm still talking about lap 4, but we're on lap 7.
I know. Yeah, I know that feeling entirely. I'm trying to keep tabs with the number of laps that have been completed, but I have to say that the graphics tower over to the left there is helpful. This is the end of lap 7. This is where we will see Max Verstappen making his first stop of the race.
So picture the scene, powering down the Dottinger Höhe, 4 cars in front of him. They're all in classes that are slightly slower than him. He doesn't want to lose a second. He's sitting on a lead of over 20 seconds, but through the final sequence of corners, Tiergarten into Hörrein, it's so tight. He's picked his way past one of them. I expect his indicator to come on now. He goes onto the start finish straight. Yes, dives into the pit. So this will be pit stop time. Whoa, very nearly collected the end of the pit wall. He's cutting it the finest angle. But is Chris Lulham, his teammate, going to take over, or is Max going to do the opening 2 stints and then Chris will go in for 3, and then we'll see what happens for 4? But I'm fairly sure Max has enjoyed that first racing run in the top class.
That was a 7:55.2 as an in-lap. And that is still timed to the control line rather than the point that he enters the pit lane. But obviously you lose time with the speed limit. There's no inkling at all that he's going to be getting out of the car. It's up on the dolly jack, so being rotated to the 45 degrees now. This will be a strange sensation for the Formula One superstar. 4-time F1 champion. This year does look like it's the first in the last 4 where he will not take the main crown, but he is also excited to be broadening his horizons moving forward, desperate to be part of the Nürburgring 24 hours, maybe in 2026. Surely the 24 Hours of Le Mans has got to be on the radar.
What did you get up to last weekend and put the Le Mans Winners' Trophy on the desk in front of him? Lots of applause for that. And I think, you know, many of his rivals are going to be very envious. Their careers have been very single-seater oriented. You know, karting single-seaters, get to Formula One, which is absolutely fantastic. But I think to do more things, try circuits haven't done before, would be for the benefit of absolutely everyone.
Did Jos's dad ever race GTs?
No, Jos was, until he went over to race the American Le Mans Series, was single-seaters all the way, but I'm fairly sure he never did GTs of any form. No? Maybe he wants to do some.
Well, yeah. Hey,
he might even be in this race under a pseudonym, racing in one of the junior classes.
in a TCR car, perhaps. Be great to have the two of them in the same car. Jos did race at Le Mans in LMP2 and in LMP1 machinery, in actual fact. But yeah, I can't see any significant tin top action or GTs for that matter. Still a little bit too early in my book, but it's gone for the almost full Santa Claus experience, that gentleman. I wonder whether that's part of the adrenaline motorsport arrive and drive situation as well. You can dress as Santa Claus for the day and we'll still prepare a car for you. Here's the 31 Ferrari then, heading towards the end of the lap. And confirmation then that it's just the one stop so far for this Ferrari. And as it swoops across the line, should be now the lead car officially.
Okay, just remember, 7 minutes 51.5, fastest lap of the race. I'm just trying to remember if that's the fastest ever in an NLS race. I'm not sure I want to take my attention away to try and find that out. But Max Verstappen, this last lap, 8 minutes and 3. However, that involved accelerating away from the pit lane. Clearly going to be longer, but back into lapping, turning right at the opening corner through the sort of what we used to refer to as the Mercedes arena, where it arcs into the left-hander at turn 2, the tighter left at turn 3, and then the tighter right at turn 4, but then down at only a very short stretch of the Grand Prix circuit before doubling to the right and then completing the end of the Grand Prix loop, but then turning onto the Nordschleife. But up ahead, just picking off one of the Porsche Caymans, nice and easily done it. And again, the drivers in the less powerful classes have to know to look at their mirrors, and the driver did that very nicely indeed. So Max Verstappen picks him off nice and easily. Just 3 more corners to go on the Grand Prix loop, and then he'll turn double left onto the Nordschleife, and then it starts becoming way more enclosed and way trickier. Down through Hatzenbach, going through Kielbacher Höhe. That's when you start to pick up the speed after a fairly decent length straight. But we had the problem there, didn't we, early on? We had a code 60 at that corner, but I must say, here we are at this point in the race, just over an hour completed, and people have been behaving very nicely indeed so far. Please do not make that the commentator's curse. Length of track. But the lap times, well, they've fallen to 8 minutes 13 last time around for Max Verstappen. No, it's not a crisis, because he hasn't suddenly lost all the pace, because remember, he's lapped 7 minutes 51. That is simply yellow flag areas. We've had some recently at Flansgarden, just being cleared. Flansgarden is about 2/3 of the way around the lap, where it's really serious. Fabulous stretch of track, so many fabulous stretches, but that bit through Brunchen, Flansgarden, then over to Schwalbenschwanz, it is very quick and very twisty. 31 from 6 from 34, which is as it was in the first lap of the race. That'll be the Verstappen.com Ferrari at the front, the number 6 Ford Mustang from Hout Racing Team, and the Walkenhorst Motorsport Aston Martin. Now up into 4th place overall, making it 4 manufacturers, is that Lamborghini Huracan that has really impressed very much today for Renazzo Motorsport Team. 4 makes in the top 4.
Great to see as well that the scaffolding has been removed from the Nürburgring Castle. That seems to have been renovated have been renovated for much of the season, and sadly the ideal lines of that have been taken away from our vision, but it's all been removed. It looks like that was been a success therefore, and the eye-catching icon on the inside of the Northern Loop is returned. Here's the Ferrari from the lead of the race. Max Verstappen, Dolly Jack's going underneath, and indeed Chris Lulham just waiting to the left-hand side of the 31 Ferrari, ready to take it over.
Yeah, the young Brit, he might have wondered if he was going to get a go at all, but of course it's 4 stints in this race. The first 2 taken by Max Verstappen. He didn't lead from the start, but he led from the opening corner on the opening lap. Brilliant start from him. He'll get out. We'll see who gets to do the final stint. Maybe it's going to be 2 stints through to the end of the race. Here we are, just past the halfway point. young Brit Chris Lulham getting on board, a serious racer in sim. That's how he came in contact with Max Verstappen, who loves sim racing a huge amount, and he's stepped up this time to his first full season of GT racing. He's only his second season all, did Radical racing, as you were pointing out last year in the Radical UK Cup, Hackety UK Cup. But this season, GT World Challenge, he's proved he's one of the very, very quickest. Remarkable story. But let's see what he can do here. Johnny, he's never raced here on the Nordschleife before. He's raced here at the Nürburgring, but that's only in sprint 1 hour races. But the Nordschleife, much, much longer lap. 25 kilometres, much, much tougher lap. Really tight and twisty, 172 corners in all. You know what? So Max Verstappen's about to stay in. He's not got out of the car yet. Chris Lulham is waiting alongside. Normally there'd be a driver change by this point. All the wheels are off the car. He's passed in a drink. You know what? I think Max is going to do a hat trick.
No, I think that is Max stepping away. Is it not? Yeah, they have a different gate. So
okay.
I thought that was Max out of the car. He was helping Chris get strapped in.
Okay, that would explain it. Maybe I was looking at something else on the car, but it wouldn't surprise me, quite frankly.
Just had a quick conversation. Go.
Oh, that was too much fun.
You can do the last stint, mate. I know we had that agreement at the start of the race, but just forget about that.
Yeah, whose name's on the side of the car? Who's called .com around here?
Yes.
No, it's more than likely it will be Chris, but I just looked away for a bit and I still saw someone wearing with a blue, white and red helmet.
Yeah, similar helmet design, certainly similar race suit as well. Well, the full confirmation will be when the car leaves the pit lane and the timing system catches up with a potential driver change. Still plenty of people wanting to photograph, if it is Chris, now in that car, with photographers kneeling down at the road surface.
Oh, by the way, I didn't, I think, answer my own question. Who took over the second of the Hout Racing Team cars from Fabio Scherer? It's Dennis Fetzer. It's been the completest.
Yep.
So Jan Mardenborough should do the fourth and final stint. So fresh set of Michelins on the Emil Frey Racing Verstappen.com Ferrari. Normally competes on Pirelli when it races in the GT World Challenge. So
who has been joined earlier on by David Barst and Axel Sartingen. But the engine you hear in the background is the turbocharged Ferrari mid-engine for the 296 GT car. Chris Lulham, the young man from Kent, took this car over at the 2-hour marker from his well-known teammate Max Verstappen. And Lulham has been so composed to this point. It was a very impressive first stint, which was a total of 3 stints, stint 3 in the collective run through the race. And now into stint 4. He's suffering a bit here and there, but that's because of the code 60 at Kesselshed, because his near rivals aren't able to really close the gap.
So this should be the final lap. Just under 8 minutes remaining. No one's lapping under 8 minutes, so do the maths on that one. Chris Lulham completes, and the sun clearly is shining on the pair of them.
What a story this is then in global motorsport. The first time that Max Verstappen attacks an NLS race, a Nürburgring Langstrecken Series race from the Formula 1 star and his young teammate of the UK. They're going to win the race after 4 hours. The 57th edition of the ADAC Barbarossa Prize goes to Max Verstappen and to Chris Lulham. The Ferrari 296 of Emil Frey Racing, Verstappen.com, Red Bull as well, taking the win. And this could be the first of much success outside of a Formula 1 paddock. Grand Final of Champions, which will take place in the second weekend of October, NLS 10. So there is still one more to happen. It remains to be seen whether Klaus Aberland changes his mind, but what a way to bow out if that is to be his final race with a solo drive. 22, which had qualified in 6th, so that is a net gain of 2 positions for Dominic and Marcel Vogel, along with Benny Leuchter.
Max has found his way.
Still here.
Yeah, he wasn't familiar to the longer pit lane here. He's all smiles, nascent moustache there on board for racing here, but I think you'll have enjoyed that hugely. And yeah, there's an enormous smile on Max's face. That was something different, something he wanted to tick off, but you could be sure he's back. He's got permission to do the full 24 hours next year here at the Nürburgring, which is fantastic news.
Und die Siegergrenze für unsere beiden Gesamtsieger mit dem Premieren-GT3-Einsatz und gleich ganz oben aufs Podium. Es war ein wenig zu erwarten. Wollen wir den Handshake abwarten. Und Herr Fetzer, die Flaschen lassen wir noch mal stehen. Das dauert noch einen Moment, bis wir so weit sind. Wollen wir zu Ehren des Teams von Emil Frey Racing die Hymne der Schweiz hören. Bis wir hier durch sind. Wir machen weiter und als Fahrer des Tages neu im NRS-Programm dieses Jahr haben wir wen heute auserwählt als Fahrer des Tages. Ich glaube, die Frage ist relativ schnell beantwortet, oder? Max Verstappen. Fahrer des Tages für NLS Nummer 9, Max Verstappen. Und damit eine Zusatztrophäe für den vierfachen Formel 1 Weltmeister. Weiter geht's mit dem Klassensieger in der FP9 Pro M. Und wir freuen uns auf Walkenhaus Motorsport. RC Barbarossa Preis mit unseren Gesamtsiegern, mit Chris Lulham und Max Verstappen. Ladies and Gentlemen, it's time for Champagne! Dankeschön. Kommst du gleich runter, lieber? Vielen Dank.